Hello, welcome to English 1023. This is Composition 2. The focus of this class is argument and research. I wanted to start this week with a video to give you a face to the name, and sometimes it's nice to hear a voice on an online class as well. I'm Shelly. Please feel free to call me Shelly. I put a little bit of information about myself in the bio. I think when you click on my picture somewhere on that homepage, it links you to some information about me. And then also on the course guide in getting started the first week, or prior to the first week, there's a little bit of information, like a Meet the Professor page as well. So please read through that so you can get to know me a little bit. And then please upload a picture and a bio for yourselves as well. That helps me get to know you a little bit, and it helps you all get to know each other, so it feels a little bit more like a community rather than just kind of an absent online classroom. So I look forward to reading more about each of you. I have a few, I guess, tips for this week, some notes, and then some reminders kind of to give you an overview of what this class will look like as we progress. So to begin, I mentioned it just a little bit ago, but please do read through that course guide. There are two things for sure that I'd love for you to read through this week. The first is the Getting Started tab. That kind of gives you an introduction to the course itself. There's a syllabus located there. There's information about our textbooks. They look like this. We have two textbooks, Everything's an Argument, the 6th edition, and then we also have the Bedford Researcher, and I have the 5th edition. You all will have the 4th edition, and we're working on matching those. If I give you some page numbers that are off, just realize it's because I was not able to get the 4th edition. There's a new edition, and the publisher won't give me that. Anyway, long story. But we do have both of those textbooks. So there will be readings each week, quizzes each week from the information there, and the readings from those will inform your applied learning activities for every week as well. So it's really, really important that you get those textbooks. So read through the course guide, read through Getting Started, and then read through week 1 for sure. It gives you an overview of the assignments that are due this week, the topics that we'll be discussing, and whatnot. And if you're able, it would be helpful to read through all the course guide kind of at a preview, just skim through it to give you an idea of where we're headed in the class, not just this week, but throughout the whole 7 weeks. I have some notes down here that I'm referencing, so just making sure I'm not forgetting anything. Okay, so the weekly structure for this class is very similar to the weekly structure if you've taken an online class at NU before. It's 7 weeks. The first 6 weeks follow a similar pattern, and that is there are assigned readings, there are practice quizzes and learning quizzes. The learning quizzes are the ones that count for a grade. There are weekly discussions where you respond to a prompt, and then once you've responded to the prompt and your peers have responded to the prompt, then you respond to each other. And then finally, there are things we call ALAs, or applied learning activities, and these are essentially more essay length assignments where you'll be writing in response to a prompt, generally a 3 to 5 page essay. There are some weeks where you'll have multiple applied learning activities, and these could also be assignments like an annotated bibliography, which we'll talk more about when we get to that point. So that's kind of the general pattern of the class, weeks 1 through 6. Week 7 kind of lightens up a little bit on the workload, I guess. There's a summative project and only a summative project due, and that for this course is a portfolio. So you will be doing still work, but you'll be revising assignments that you've already submitted and received feedback on for one final revision. So that's kind of the arc of where we're going. The course is set up in a very specific way to refrain from entering into argument right away. I think in general that's kind of how our society works. Like, we see discussions, we see arguments, and people just kind of engaging with each other right away. Our goal is to slow that down. So because part of engaging well in an argument is understanding, I don't like the word opposition, but understanding others' perspectives on the same issue. We want to slow it down, try to understand what the other sides have to say before we engage in that argument. So that's what we're doing mostly weeks 1 through 5, and then week 6 we finally engage in our own, like in establishing our own argument about a given topic. So we will definitely talk more about that, but just to give you an idea, that's kind of how we're structuring the class so far. Okay, let's see. Why would we do this? I think it's helpful, like I said, because it's not modeled well for us. It's helpful for us to slow down a little bit, to better empathize and understand opposing perspectives. And it helps us think critically. It helps us really to analyze and evaluate others' arguments so that we can better meet them where they are. So again, we'll talk more about that, but that just kind of gives you a sense for what we're doing. 2 other things to note about this class. The first is that we will be working in APA format, which is different than in Composition 1 and in Foundations of College Writing if you've taken that class. Previously, we've worked in MLA format. We are now working in APA format, which is very different. Your textbooks have information about APA. I've uploaded a PowerPoint as well that offers some information about APA formatting. It's up to you to become familiar with the basics of that formatting style. On your draft, your first draft this week, I will give you some feedback, but as polished as it can be in APA format, the better, so that I can give you the best feedback possible. The reason we kind of switch in Composition 2 from MLA to APA is because you'll likely have classes that use both, and it's really important to be able to pay attention to detail and be able to switch back and forth for various classes depending on the requirements. So we want to be sure that you're prepared for both for the rest of your college career. Okay, what else do we have here? The second thing to note about this class as a whole is that it's very draft oriented. So we will be working in weeks 1 and 2 on week 1, your first draft, your rough draft of a rhetorical analysis essay. Week 2, you'll be finalizing that draft. So you'll give a second draft of that rhetorical analysis essay. Weeks 3, 4, and 5, you'll be focused on annotated bibliographies, drafts of those, as well as a documented argument, kind of an overview of the sources that you're collecting. So most of the assignments you submit will go through multiple drafts. So that's important to note. We're not always working with final drafts. However, because much of our work depends upon the drafts that have been previously submitted, late work becomes kind of tricky. Because there's a lot to cover in 7 weeks of this class, it's really important that you don't fall behind. And so to help incentivize you staying up to date on your work, I will accept late work. However, I'll accept it up to 5 days late with a discounted, reduced, I guess not discounted, a reduced point value of 20% each day. So up to 5 days, then it's down to 0. But that is to make sure that you are staying on track, that you're not falling too far behind, because your assignments for the next week will likely depend upon what you've submitted and then the feedback I've given you for the following week. So if you have questions about that, please ask me. I've also listed this in the PowerPoint below, but I just wanted to make a note of that. So the late work that I'm referring to here is the applied learning activities. Both the learning quizzes and the discussions are pre-populated on our online platform to not allow late work. So those are kind of one and done. If you miss the deadline for those, just do your best on the following ones. But the applied learning activities, I'm willing to work with you a little bit. Okay, this week we have assigned readings. We have 4 controversy readings that we will be reading through and then selecting one of those on which to write our rhetorical analysis essay. So read through each of the controversy readings. I encourage you to read through them multiple times so that you can better understand what argument the author is trying to make. And then from those, after you've read them multiple times, done your best to understand them, choose one on which to focus in your rhetorical analysis, which I'll talk about in just a minute. So we have those controversy readings. We also have readings from the textbook. So you'll see that this week we will be reading chapters 1 through 3 in Everything's an Argument. And this begins to discuss components of an argument, pathos and ethos. However, next week we get to more components of an argument, logos and logical fallacies. And these are like errors in reasoning. I would encourage you, if you're at all able, to read ahead. That understanding both this week's readings and next week's readings will help inform your rhetorical analysis even more. It will give you even more components for argument that you can use to analyze and evaluate the controversy reading that you choose. So if you're able to read through both of those readings, please do at least skim, and maybe that can give you some more tools for your rhetorical analysis. Two other things that would be helpful to read through. In Everything's an Argument, pages 114 to 119, there is a guide for how to write a rhetorical analysis essay, and I very much encourage you to look through that. It will be very helpful as you begin your drafts this week. Just prior to that, in Everything's an Argument, pages 108 to 113 provides a sample essay and then a sample student essay. So a sample essay, I think it's from the New Yorker, the New York Times, and then a student's rhetorical analysis, sample rhetorical analysis essay on that particular article. So I would very much encourage you to read through that as well. That will give you, if you're like, I have no idea what exactly I need to do for rhetorical analysis, the guide will help you, but there's also that sample student essay. So read through both of those. Okay. Like I mentioned, each week the concepts from the textbook readings will really inform your applied learning activities. So again, I can't stress enough, please do the readings, do them thoroughly, do them carefully, so that you can then use those ideas for your rhetorical analysis. All right, in the PowerPoint that I've included below, there's also something that I call context questions. There's a slide about them, and essentially it's some questions to ask you that you should answer for everything that you read. So in every controversy reading this week, try to answer those questions. Who is it that's speaking to me? What are they saying exactly? Why is this important? When were they speaking? What's the historical context? Those kinds of things are really helpful for us to understand where this person is coming from and why they might be making the argument they're making. So if it helps me, a former colleague of mine told me that these context questions are similar to this metaphor of somebody walking down the street and just they hand you a sandwich, and the questions that might arise as you take that sandwich in your hands would be similar questions that you want to answer for every piece of information you encounter. So if somebody just handed me a sandwich, I might think, why did you hand me this sandwich? Where did this come from? When was it made? Who made it? Why did they make it? Why are you handing it to me? All of those kinds of journalistic questions, if you will, those context questions, help us understand something. Why is this person writing this particular piece? When did they write it? Why did they write it? To whom are they writing it? Is it me? Is it somebody else? So all of this is included on the slide, and it's helpful information to consider as we try to understand, analyze, and then evaluate various pieces of information, various sources. Okay, I think I am nearing the end of my things. If you have any questions at all as you read through the course guide, as you read through the PowerPoint, as you watch this video, please don't hesitate to send me a message or send me an email. I'm available. I'm here for you. If you need to Skype, we can set up a time to Skype. I just want to be a resource for you. One other thing, there is another resource, and that is a writing tutor who's available for online students. So I encourage you to work ahead so that you're able to send work to her so that she can review it and get back to you and you can revise by the deadlines. But she's very helpful. I hopefully can help. The librarians are here to help as well. So please use the resources that are available to you. I really look forward to getting to know you and to working with you in these coming weeks, and we'll talk again soon. All right.